Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Moving into the Future. Today, we have a first, the first official OMA Rat Pack podcast. I'm joined by myself, Jeff Silverstein, my partner at the Advanced Group, Bryan Martin, the Advanced Group's newest employee, and Jim Stevens from M3 Commercial Relocation and Logistics. Boys, welcome.
Thanks, Jack.
Appreciate it.
Salud. Cheers to this.
Cheers to this.
If you're listening in, we got some old fashions in our hand. We're doing it, the old-fashioned way, like the Rat Pack would. We got to distinguish who's who. I'm going to go ahead and say Bryan can be Frank Sinatra since he's Frankie Blue Eyes, Bryan Blue Eyes over here.
I like that.
That one will work.
Yep.
I got to be Dean Martin since I'm, the Italian stallion over here. That one fits well.
The hips don't lie.
The hips don't lie. That's right. That's right, and that's an inside joke.
I hope we don't get into that one.
And then Jim's got to be what was his name? Joey Bishop. He's the funny guy, and Jeff's got to be Sammy Davis.
Sammy Davis, man, the only
Davis.
Jew in the group.
Right, that's right.
Somebody's got to wear it.
Somebody's got to wear it, and I wear it well. And Sammy Davis, that's a great guy to be. So I'll take it.
It's a perfect fit, though. I mean, we are some of the most provocative and talented, and certainly the best looking fellas in the industry here.
Damn.
And
also by far the most humble.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Especially Jack.
Especially Jack. Especially Jack.
Hey, listen,
Especially
you got to
Jack.
have the confidence.
Yeah.
Dean Martin, baby, I'm telling you.
I get it.
So what's going on? How we doing today? Jim, how are you?
Doing great. Welcome to my town, man.
Yeah.
Not my town, but
It's your town.
It's the
Sunshine
M3 town.
US
It is
USA.
the M3 town. I mean,
having fun.
It's great to be here again.
Again.
Yeah.
How long have you been here?
4.5 years.
Really?
Yeah, 4.5 years.
And it's been nothing but upwards since then, huh?
Yeah, it's been wild. It's been a good ride. We've had a good team. I was involved in the organization probably 15 through 18.
Yeah.
And then left. So it's good to be back. It's like returning to a family reunion.
You and Bryan came up together, right? I mean, you guys, when did you get to JK?
So Jim and I actually started, ironically, met a guy today that was at Relocation Systems.
Oh!
Okay, so Jim and I actually started at Relocation Systems in 2005. Yeah, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Jim and I actually started, believe it or not, we identified that the commercial market was something that we really wanted to get into. So back in 2005, we thought it would be prudent for us to go out and take pictures together, right? So back then, I'm sure most people know what Olin Mills was, right? So Jim and I go into like Sears in the local Fair Oaks Mall, and we feel like we need to take professional pictures. And these are like glamour shots for guys,
Oh, yeah.
right?
It's like when you bring your kids in.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was the epitome, it was equal as Step Brothers. It was like Step Brothers photo shoot where he walked in and said, we're going to be interviewing together. And he was like, hello, lady friend. That was us in the photo shoot. And we thought we were killing. We go out there with business cards, and it's like me like sitting down like sideways like this, and Jim standing up behind me with his hand on my shoulder. And everyone's like, are you guys doing this together? We're like, yeah, here we go.
This is embarrassing.
It was awesome.
Please tell me you have these pictures.
Yeah, I was
We
going
can
to
find
say.
it.
These
gotta
have
be
to
able to
come
find it.
out.
We've got the pictures.
It was bad. It was bad.
I don't know what we were thinking.
Right, what was the whole
But we were
purpose
fully
of that?
committed.
So
we
we-
were fully committed.
Oh, dude, we bid on our first big project. I'll never forget it. What was it? Exo Communications
Yep.
in
Exo
DC.
Communications. Yep.
Jim and I went down into his parents' basement because we both lived at our parents with our parents at the time. We laid out floor plans across the table, probably about across a bar about this size, and we mapped out with man hours, with staffing, with everything, the winning proposal. We were $400,000 higher than this person. We go in, we present this proposal, like guns blazing, we are it. We put it on the table, we're like, here we go, this is the winning proposal. And the lady looked at us and said, you don't have a shot at this. So
Well, that's a good,
that was the startup.
Hey, it's better to be high than low, too. I think
Was,
Yeah.
it, was it bad estimating, or was it a value sell that
It
you
was
were going
bad
after?
all the way around. It was not one thing that you could possibly say that was bad, that was good about it. Besides the fact of the camaraderie and what we did to get there, and that was one thing that I would say Jim and I experienced for the next 12 years of our career was the camaraderie, the competitive nature, and really the growth that I think got us to where we are today, sitting at this table with you guys. So.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. It's fun to look back on because it's fun to laugh and ask questions as to what the heck we were thinking and be embarrassed. But we went for it, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere, and for us, that was our start.
When I was at Steinway,
Yeah.
Tim started the commercial division,
Yeah.
and he took me over from residential. I was like his first sales guy there, me and him. And I remember I got like $125,000 move, which for that time, Steinway was, the biggest commercial move they'd done at that time. They were A1 first class at that time. But I remember I was project managing that whole thing, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And the construction wasn't done on site. So it was like 75% of the office was shut off because they were still doing construction, and we were moving stuff in. Like, you know how you color code things and it has an area and identification of where it goes to?
Sure.
We were moving that stuff in and just staging it all, like, right there in one corner. And it was probably like 8 to 9 truckloads and, like, just filling up the office to the brim. And I remember Matt came. It was like on a Friday night. He's like, I've never seen a move like this before.
And you probably said,
I was like, yeah, me neither, man. Like, and I remember it was, and this is the time when I was selling and project managing. So like I was working, double shifts essentially. And I remember it was like 1 a.m. on a Friday night. We were still there. And my buddy was working for A1 at the time too, and I remember thinking to myself, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I could have done anything else, and I'm in this industry. And but it was a great learning experience. It did, because you start big, and then you realize you get it done, you do it. And for what it was worth, it was successful. Like, it wasn't our fault that construction wasn't finished, so it did go well in the end. But yeah, I remember being so far in over my head on that and figuring out a way, and that's the thing. You remember your first commercial relocation?
I do, and good thing you weren't 400 over. You actually got that.
Right.
These guys went after me. Get it. But I'll tell you,
wasting their time.
my first job was also with Steinway. It was a $2,000 move, and I said, "Man, this is amazing. This is amazing. We're in a different world." It was for a company called Zamoga, and I don't think they're even in business anymore. They are not. And it was from a commercial real estate broker at Kaufman, actually, and he introduced me, and I said, man, this networking thing, it works. I mean, I got to get my name out there, and it popped into my head the idea of, well, I guess this is why everybody goes to the IFMA events and the Cornet events and makes names for themselves. And I mean, I thought I was the richest guy on planet Earth with the $2,000 move over here. These guys have been $400,000 moves off the bat.
Yeah, but you were winning. We weren't winning.
Yeah, we weren't winning.
Okay. Hey, listen. I would probably at this point, I'd rather lose a $400,000 job than say that I won a $2,000 job and be as happy as I am about it. But good for you guys for going to the mall. Did you go to Claire's first? Get some earrings.
Went to Macy's to get like a cheap suit.
We may have had matching suits.
We had heard. No, we had matching polos. Okay.
Polos, that's what it was.
We had
That's
matching
right.
polos.
You're
All right, I remember. Yeah, I do remember this.
I think there was even like a.
But
funny,
you know what?
funny
It was
pose
we
at one point.
I think it was something, and this is a serious tribute to OMA and those that have mentored us, and we had listened to someone or been made aware of an article on branding and how you needed to brand yourself, and we were just frankly inspired. So we were inspired to go to the mall and get shots done, and we were literally going to have professional slicks that we send out to clients and say, hey, we were the Relocation Systems elite team to,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
take
it.
care of
We
you.
brand ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it. Listen, that's what we're doing here too.
Like the
a
Rat
lot of
Pack.
this is exactly correct.
But I tell you what, I'll take it over not doing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll
Exactly.
take it over acquiescing to the norm. Right? I mean,
Because
we're in
it differentiated us.
yeah,
And I mean,
it did.
it really did.
We earned office moves. I mean, we did, and there were some people that absolutely loved it, and I'm sure some people that were very polite to us and just died laughing with the picture of the slick left behind afterwards. But you know what? As I mentioned, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been a fun ride.
It has, hasn't it?
It's been a fun ride.
I love being in this industry, and like that's what I was saying. I'm going through those tough moves, and I think like I could have done anything else, but it's so much fun being in this industry because, and I've said this many times, it takes a certain type of person to stick with this. I think a lot of people do it, and then they get their fingers dirty with it a little bit, and they realize it's not worth whatever they think, the stress or the time or anything like that. But once you get involved in it, and then you expand to the national and global aspect of it with OMA, you're really doing something, which is what I enjoy about it. Like I am I'm accomplishing something. And I wanted to step back too with the podcast too. You know, people often say, like in my personal circle, like, who the hell listens to a mover podcast? You know, I was like, well, about 100 people on an episode.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's like, it's better. I think Ricky Gervais was the one who said, it's better to create and be criticized than do nothing and criticize others.
Absolutely.
Why are you doing this podcast?
Because it's a brand recognition standpoint that simply is unattainable by anybody else in this industry. There's no one else in this industry who's doing this podcast, and that's not the only reason. That's the first reason, is from a marketing standpoint, I'm separating myself and creating a brand for myself and the Advanced Group, where we're trying to build a national global move management division that is unequated by anybody else, you know, in this industry. Even largely in real estate, there's only so many commercial real estate podcasts. You know, there's some architecture podcasts, but largely in this vertical, there's not many other people doing this. So I really like it for that. I also like the aspect of doing stuff like this, where, like, you know, I can have you guys sit down here. It's something special we do, and it's produced incredibly well. I'm proud to put my name behind it, my face behind it. I'm proud to have people on and do it for them so that they can have it. And then we put it on the internet, and it lives there. And then in 20 years from now, like you guys are talking about what you guys were doing, when you're taking pictures and stuff like that, I'll be able to go back and, you know, God willing, it's a successful career at that point. I've done a lot, and I can go back and look at these. I can show these to, you know, people, employees I have, and say, like, you know, this is how it started. Hopefully it inspires them.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully they can use it as tools for success down the road. That's largely why I do it.
You're enjoying doing it. You find that it's differentiating yourself, and it certainly is. You've got a lot of talented people that are pouring into the podcast, and you're bringing value out. And, you know, and it also gives you a voice and gives you the ability to highlight really talented people that are contributing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, can we just acknowledge the fact that OMA, and there are other organizations, but OMA is the gold standard of bringing excellence together. You walk into the room and you're blown away, and it's extraordinarily valuable.
Thanks. And really, I mean, it stems back to Jeff. Like, this wasn't my idea. This was, you know, Jeff and Lisa's, our marketing manager, and it was a product of the pandemic. It's really good and consistent, and a lot of fun. Like you said, you know, we get to promote. It's opened doors for me. You introduced me to Vince. He introduced me to Ed Katz, who's an interesting character. You guys know him?
Yeah, we know.
Uncle Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, I mean, Ed Katz. Ed Katz has brought so many people in this industry along. I mean, he's one of the godfathers.
Yeah,
you know, they're actually, we were talking about this. We were rapping about, oh, I'm sorry. We were rapping about the fact that there were actually 2 Rat Packs.
Yeah, that's
You guys
right.
aware of that?
Probably way more.
Rat Pack in the 50s and a Rat Pack in the 60s. Ed Katz would have been in the Rat Pack in the 50s.
Right, the original there.
Yeah, he would have been one of the originals. So, I mean, what a wealth of knowledge in somebody that, frankly, I think we're a byproduct of those that gave back. I mean, you brought up a good example there, and the King of New York. Notice that the King of New York didn't say, "Hey, we're going to start a podcast. It's going to be the Silverstein podcast." So we're going to start a podcast, and Jack, I think you'd be great for the podcast.
Right.
Think about how many people have impacted our lives and impacted the lives of young reps coming up in the industry that said, "Hey, I'm going to turn behind and I'm going to take you by the hand and get you through and pull you along." I mean, if we didn't have that, Brian, we'd still be bidding $500,000 office moves, $400,000 more.
Yeah.
And,
a little off, just a little bit
just a
outside.
little bit outside.
But
of
now
that.
you're going to close them. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
good with
yeah,
that.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
okay
yeah.
with that. Nobody's going to stop you from value selling there. Just wanted to let you know.
But I tell you, can't you boys feel it?
Yeah.
Can't you boys feel it in this room? I mean,
Yeah.
there's an aura about OMA, and it has nothing to do with the individual member. It has nothing to do with us four. It has nothing to do, you know, the board has done an incredible job, and they deserve a heck of a lot of credit. Young Leaders is doing a great job. But it's not the individual member, it's the conglomerate of organizations that are unified and coming together.
And I think that's what happened in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
is the unification of the organization and its members. has helped out a lot. And you guys have seen it longer than I have, but that's one thing I've taken away.
Yeah.
But I wanted to circle back because, this is something Jeff does really well. And with Bryan coming on recently, I think he's going to see it a lot more. Jeff, why don't you talk about, with me particular, because I remember when we talked about me coming on, we were just catching up for drinks. And me and Jeff had known each other a long time. And I said to him, I'm thinking about coming back out into the industry, into sales. And he said, if you want, he's like, you'd be welcome with open arms. And they recruited me hard. He specifically, because I was weighing my options, but he made it very clear. He's like, listen, I've been here 10 years. He's like, that should be a testament in itself. And I think, Jeff, you've done a really good job, obviously building the sales team at the Advanced Group, but also managing the team and, making sure everybody is comfortable and supported and has a pathway for growth. So why don't you talk about that a little bit, particularly as it pertains to me, because I am a little bit of not a renegade, so to speak, but I like to do things my way a lot of times.
Free spirit.
Yeah, exactly. Free
spirit.
spirit. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a good,
I like the I do it my way. Rat Pack.
Yeah.
Right
Come
there.
on,
I thought that was
let's
really
go.
good. Well, look, Jack. First of all, it's very easy to manage people that are self-starters. We were talking a lot about this at dinner last night, and it's an absolute pleasure working with very, very motivated people. And there's not a lot of management per se that we do. It's more about support, right? It's more about you choosing your own path and then working with you guys to get there. And it's the same thing with Bryan. We just talked a lot about where you see yourself in the future, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, and supporting that type of vision, right? So, things like the podcast were part of how you wanted to, bring your brand to the market, and that's great. Bryan has his own tactic, and Jim, I think you're sandwiched in between a bunch of Advanced Group guys over here, but you have your own way of doing it, and I've certainly learned a tremendous amount from you, and I know these guys at the table have as well. And when you have that kind of team, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is making sure that we take the noise away from you as much as possible. Whether it's administrative overload or trying to figure out a way to get you really at your peak, at your best, performing all the time, waking up and understanding that we're here to help. And Bryan brought up a great example of what it takes, right, just to merely book a job. And he kind of looked at us with some confusion, because for us it was sort of easy button, we hand it over, and that was a long time coming. That was a vision of Anthony's, who's now the CEO of our organization, and I don't think there could be anybody better.
Well deserved,
in charge there.
Well deserved.
Just absolute great person, mentor, and all of that. And it was always his vision to say, I want the salesman selling 100% of the time. And if you're taking your time entering stuff into CRM or answering an RFP late at night, your focus, even though you may have the time, your focus is not 100% on the next thing, right? You're still looking back at the other thing. And we're always looking for ways to do that. And especially with a guy like yourself who has great vision, and at the end of the day, the way you're going to be most successful is doing it your way, but we're achieving the goal together.
Right.
And we really look at it as a team effort, right? And the team is the sum of its parts, right? And it's all of you guys sitting around, and it's also having fun. I mean, at the end of the day, if we're not sitting there having fun, if we're not celebrating the wins, Bryan and I talk about that. What are we doing? Right?
Yeah, again, like getting back to this industry as a whole, if you're not having fun with this industry, you're going to have a hard time too.
And credit to everybody sitting around the table, because here you have 4 people that all are successful by any metric that you might lay out there. All very, very different personalities.
Yeah.
All extremely different methods. It's easy when you have that leadership from the top. We've been very fortunate, me in particular, have been very fortunate to work with very strong leaders in this business, not just Anthony, but others. And you learn that from people. And you want to make sure not only are you keeping the talent, but you are attracting the talent.
Yeah.
And that's both on the sales and operations side. There's no doubt about that. But when people start to devalue the sales rep's relationships with a particular client, I'll never get over people not understanding the importance of that and why clients do business with people, why they buy what they buy from people, and that relationship with the sales rep. And I think that's of the utmost importance. And to your point, keeping talented people is also very important. If you don't have a great and talented, operational company behind you, you got nothing, right? And that's all we have. We don't have a commodity. We're not selling trading desks. We're not selling microphones. We're not selling widgets. We're selling the service that we're selling the service of our company and the services that our companies provide. And if that lacks behind the ability of the sales team, then you got nothing, right? And then you got a big gap to fill there. So again, we pay attention just as much to our sales talent and keeping them happy and allowing them to be individuals and letting them have podcasts and letting them go out and do what they need to do. But also we put a lot of strain on our operations department to keep up with us.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge in and of itself. And especially when you have sales reps that do a lot of things different, right? I mean, that's a strain. Fortunately, we have a lot of talent like your company does and yourself. And I'll give a shout out. I get to plug KJ Kennedy, our COO, but man, the guy's unbelievable, and he gets it. He understands what we're doing here. He's not the guy that says no. He's the guy that figures out how to get the yes, and how to motivate the team to do that. And we're not selling simple moving services anymore. We've graduated beyond that for a long time, and to have an operations staff and to have the people at the top keep up with us on that is. There's something to be said about that, and that's why I'm happy where we are, and we can attract the sales talent. It's not easy getting a guy like Bryan. I mean, you gotta make it worth his while, right? I mean, you gotta make the juice worth the squeeze on that.
No question, but people don't buy what you're doing. They buy why you do it.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, which Simon Sinek, I'm a huge fan, but Simon Sinek.
Never heard of
Yeah, Start With Why.
Oh, okay.
Great book.
Yeah.
Incredible. But
Nice shout out.
yeah, thanks, big guy. Yeah, thank you.
You got some homework.
But look. I mean, where we've been, where Bryan and I have been. I mean, golly, you've got Rocco Balsamo, you've got Paul McGinnis, you've got Vince Morano, you've got John Tice. These are legends in the game that are really, really doing it right.
And I've seen it all.
And they've seen it all, and they're a wealth of experience. And there's so many other really, really, really talented individuals that remain at JK where we came from, and certainly that's an organization that is really, I think, a prominent figure in the industry that is commercial moving and moving in general, right?
Sure. Self-haul and all that.
Right.
They do
Right.
Mobility.
I got a question for you guys though, because you guys have obviously reached a level that I'm still aspiring to get to. You talk about relationships. And how you build those, and that's one thing I'm good at. I have the good relationships with people in my market and developing those and stuff like that. But one of the things, I'll tell you what too, I'm going to cut myself off real quick. So I do these podcasts, and there's certain things I say on every podcast, and if I could punch myself in the face every time I say stuff like that, I'd do it. I'd be.
This is the outtakes portion.
I know. This is not.
Right. I just want to make sure.
We're going live with this. Anyways, as far as the relationships go, how do you guys get that first opportunity? How do you ask for it? How long does it take? I mean, it varies. I know it can take a long time, but I've created these relationships. I do it well. They trust me. Everything I do.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack. You earn it.
Yeah, I know that. But what do I got to do? Like
No. But that's the thing. You earn it. You earn it.
Everything
You earn
I
it.
do,
You
though,
earn it.
everything I do,
You
that
earn
has
it.
my name attached
See,
to it
you're
is
gonna go
success.
first. You're gonna go first, which is okay. But you're gonna say everything that the people that taught us are gonna say. So
Yeah,
I'll let
you've
you
got to
go.
earn the right. You've got
Well,
to
that's
earn the
okay.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
and how do
so
you
so
get
let's
there,
talk.
Jim?
Let's
How do
talk
you
here.
get there?
Let's talk first and foremost. Okay. I think what our industry is lacking is
Fucking love Jim,
is
by the way. I love him.
It's great. It's
Okay.
great
Does it,
because-
that's
Yeah.
Hold on, real quick, just because. Hold on, and a quick story. Shout out to Rocco Balsamo once again. Very first day that Jim and I go in there, and Jim's gonna laugh because he knows the story. So Rocco gets in front. I walk in, and Rocco said we just transitioned over, and Rocco goes, "Bryan, great to have you aboard. We're so excited to have you. You and Jim are just absolutely powerhouses, up and comers. You're young, you're energetic. We love it. So let me ask you a question. Why would I buy from you? Why would I buy from you? Right? So to your point, you're asking, how do you ask for the business? Why would I buy from you? They run parallel.
Why should I give you my time?
Why should I give you my time?
It all
What makes
runs.
you worth
It all.
it?
It's all there.
First of all, well, we're a great company. JK is a great company. Hey, guess what? That's great. The last guy said he was a great company too. So what? Who cares? We went through 10 minutes of him repeating, so what, who cares, to the point that I wanted to crawl into a ball and die. Because I was I was mortified because I had nothing else.
Well, so Rocco and I did a session back in, I want to say it was 18 at OMA, and we had all apples and oranges, and we're tossing them around the room. And those of you that were, 16, yeah, those of you that were there, thought you were getting a lesson on fruit. But that's all Rocco right there. But you got to earn it. You've got to. Listen, for us, if you're not educating clients, you're well behind the 8 ball. Somebody else is. So this is where the value of the sales rep. This is where the value of the sales rep. I view myself, and I know all of us in the industry that are counseling clients view ourselves as experts. No different than if you went into Dr. Andrews, and everybody knows who Dr. Andrews is, repairing knees in the NFL.
Right, and you just say that name.
Yeah, you say Dr. Andrews, and everybody goes, "Oh, knee specialist."
Perfect.
And so, Dr. Andrews had to earn it. He had so many thousands of successful surgeries, so many thousands of fans, and somehow and this is where it gets really interesting if you look deep into it. I don't believe that Dr. Andrews is the person that put himself on the map and propelled him up. I believe it was others that opened doors intentionally for him. Yeah. So this is a whole thing in servant leadership, and I recently listened to Admiral Vern Davis, who was in charge of the Navy when 9/11 happened. He was in charge of about 800,000 Navy troops, and he was one of 8 in a situation room with President Bush, and mobilizing jets and defending our country. And what a lot of people don't know, devout man of faith, and a massive, massive, massive servant leader. Massive servant leader. And he talked about how, as he was a 1-star admiral, he would go into rooms where, there were a lot of very influential people in the Navy, and he would witness just the infighting and the clawing to try and move up at all costs, and how the posture, he just did not assimilate to that posture. And one quote that he mentioned really stood out to me. He said, young people have a misconception that you have to scramble and you need to try and jam through closed doors. He said, if you can serve the needs of others, the doors will be opened by others. He's self-admittedly says, my entire career was walking through open doors. Mm-hmm. Pretty powerful, certainly for just leadership in general. And I'm drinking that Kool-Aid because Lord knows where I've been in my life, in my career, lacking emotional intelligence. And, ultimately, there's a lot of servant leaders in OMA, and, those that are assimilated to kind of that posture, I think those are really dominating.
But see, that's why you ask those questions, because that's great advice right there. Is so many young people want to jam through those doors, and just let other people open them for you. Yeah. And that's it. And he walked through so many open doors that way.
I think it all kind of goes back to the fact that the buyer is changing today. The buyer that is today was not the buyer that was yesterday, and is certainly not going to be the buyer of tomorrow. And I think that their needs are all changing. I think that what we do as an industry is changing. I think that, and I think Jim would probably agree with, and I know for a fact Jeff would agree with, the moves are getting easier. They are not as big. So all of us as an industry are having to change and pivot to exactly what the need of our industry is. And I think that's a huge, that's a huge deal right now. I think it's a huge hot button for our industry as a whole, is that the companies that say they are a mover are going to fade.
Right.
I really think they're going to fade.
That's one thing. That was the primary reason I joined the advanced group.
Yeah.
We are
Absolutely.
a mover, but we're workplace services,
Right.
largest in the tri-state area.
I love it.
The moves, and Jim, we talked at length about this, is going to become so secondary to what we're doing, and so far behind everything else that we're doing, and we're going to be able to use our relationships and leverage our relationships with our clients to do so much more for them.
We as a group, as an OMA organization, spend a lot of time in the trenches.
Yeah.
You know, we see the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that makes us stronger. And I think that is, again, I mean, we spend a lot of times answering phone calls all hours of the night, answering other people's clients' phone calls at all hours of the night to make sure that they're taken care of. And that builds trust, that builds consistency, that builds friendships. And ultimately, I mean, I think there's a word that's been floating around a lot lately. It's a family here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. And like, you know, the fact we get to come together at these things and actually spend time together, they're great. And
Yeah.
and it's only growing. Like, it's still so young. It's still all so available. You know?
I feel like a lot of our competitors would disagree with that. It's not as young as you think. I feel like it's pretty. I think we're pretty established.
Well, but
You mean as far as OMA?
we're established. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
We're established. But as far as like what we're doing
Sure,
still,
sure.
I mean, we haven't even. I compared it to like, because I used to work in tech, right? So like, you know, I was at these Indeed. So I was at Indeed, and Indeed was the #1 job search engine in the world.
Sure.
While I was there, and we were going through that ascension to growth, and I remember Google dropped their jobs. They were going to put on, you know, how they have like
Yeah.
Drive
Yep.
and email up there, Gmail up there. They were going to add jobs to that, and then Indeed put on an onslaught of marketing. And that's where you see Indeed on Monday Night Football and all over podcasts and radios and stuff like that. And we buried them. Like it wasn't even like a move anymore. So the goal is, and that's always been with me too, is when anybody thinks move, they're thinking OMA. You know, like that's the goal. And you get to a point where competitors are, they're in a different sector than where we operate at. So boys, thank you very much for coming on. The first official OMA Rat Pack conference
it.
is in the
There you go.
books. Salud.
Salud.
Salute.
Thank you everybody for listening.
Cheers.
Looking forward to next time, and we'll keep moving into the future.